I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from the United States. He works at Am Josh Knox. It's a bit of a giveaway as who I'm speaking to. He's the CIO and Principal Dynamics Consultant. He was first awarded as MVP in 2023. He has implemented Dynamics 365 finance and operations solutions, focusing on project-related solutions for professional service companies. He is a Dynamics 365 professional, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, a so-so pickleballer, a mediocre juggler, and a pretty good paper airplane folder. You can find links to his bio and social media in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you, Mark. It's wonderful to be here. Just a quick correction. I'm not a CIO. I'm a CJO. I'm the Chief Josh Officer in my company. And also a late breaking news, I should say. I did independent consulting under Am Josh Knox for the last year and a half. And just this last 2 weeks ago, I started working with a new company called Cooptimize. So now I am a member of Cooptimize. Cooptimize is a collective. What is a cooperative? That's Cooptimize. And it's a group of a group of four of us working together doing business intelligence and other services related to reporting related to our Dynamics experience.
I love it. So you formed a co-op. So you're independent business owners, but co-op together. Is that the situation?
We are, yeah. So the legal entity structure, which predates me, it's actually an LLC, but everybody who participate is sort of the words get technical, and I'm sure Joel and Eric will get mad at me for using the wrong words, but essentially everyone is paid a salary, and then we do profit sharing based on how we do as a company and based on everyone's involvement in the cooperative. It's a really fun experiment. It's a new business model, a new way for consultants to engage, and it's just everybody in the cooperative is fun to work with, and that was the reason that I joined up. Yeah,
you got involved. I love it. Tell me a bit about what you do when you're not doing your day job. What does life mean? What part of the US are you based in? Food, family, fun, all those great things that make life exciting.
Ooh, food, family, and fun. That is all the things that make life great and exciting. So I live in California, or at least I live in California right now. My wife, Luana, and we have two boys. We have Calvin, who's 4 years old, and Lawrence, who's 2 years old. And for the last 2 years, we've been doing an experiment, within a variety of experiments of life. But Luana's from Brazil. And so last year we spent 6 months in Brazil, sort of living with her family, and then 6 months in California. And then we did it again, which I guess originally was just we were going to take an extended trip to Brazil, but we liked that trip so much that this year we repeated the experiment. And so from April to the end of September, we were in Brazil, and that was home. So you talk about food, family, and fun, right? Brazilian food is of course Brazilian barbecue and rice and beans every day. they have square pizza. They have all kinds of pizza abominations, really. But I dessert pizza. But yeah, so I love Brazilian food and Brazilian culture. Obviously, as you said, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and so it was great. It's great to be able to train jiu-jitsu there, just with a different group of people than I get to train over here. So that's everything that drives my life outside of work is having two little kids, right? A 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're growing and just learning and growing, and it's I love that. That's everything mixed in with shades of Luana's family while we're in Brazil, and shades of my family and my parents while we're here in California.
Interesting. Like so many questions jump to mind. My good mate Steve Mordu has moved to Brazil, and with his Brazilian wife, and he seems to have been setting up shop there, and he loves it. He loves the culture and the environment. How do you find the difference between the US culture and the Brazilian culture? What are the kind of noticeable differences, I suppose, between the two geographies?
When you talk about the culture of one country versus the culture of another country, you're prone to probably generalize far too much about far too many people. But the biggest difference to me is just the amount of conversation, the volume of conversation. So, when we're at home, it's me and my wife, and we talk in the evenings, and I work during the day, and she chit chats here and there, right? When we're in Brazil, there's just always people around, and there's always conversation, and my wife can be with her, there'll be 3 or 4 different aunts in the house, and they'll all be talking, between the 5 of them, they'll have 3 different conversations going in at once. And I love that, right? There's so much more, so many more words, right? But all that talking is really an expression of love, right? It's an act of caring, and so that's a part of the culture that I like a lot. In some ways, I think maybe you call it traditions, or the way things used to be in America, right? I think with cell phones now, right? Like if you just knock on your neighbor's door, or just go over to a friend's house and show up unannounced, they'd be like, "Well, why didn't you call? Like, what the heck? I'm busy," right? That doesn't exist there, and so we'd be at home, and there'd always be a friend or an aunt would just sort of show up and say, "Hey, I was just kind of around. What are you guys doing?" And I love that, and it's funny because I think even if if someone came into the U.S. and did that, it's strange, but also it'd be welcome. I feel like there's a way that we could uh, collide with each other maybe more often, and life would be more enjoyable.
I like that, collide with each other. Tell me about the differences with learning jiu-jitsu in the US as opposed to in Brazil.
I would say that learning jiu-jitsu in the U.S., right, the story of jiu-jitsu in the U.S. is that there was a Brazilian family was training lots of jiu-jitsu in Brazil, and they sort of had these challenge tournaments where they would say, "Oh, our jiu-jitsu martial art is better than all the others," and right, that Gracie family wound up sort of being involved in, we'll say, the beginnings of the UFC. So right, Brazilian jiu-jitsu in the U.S. is Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Brazil. But I think in Brazil, there's probably a lot more, people want to respect their lineage more, maybe, of, oh, this guy taught me, and this guy taught him, and right. And because you're in Brazil, you're always 1 or 2 skips away from a Gracie somewhere. I think in the U.S., there's more of a wrestling influence maybe in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and in the U.S., there's probably more of a, obviously you make generalizations, but there's probably more of a business focus on gyms in the U.S. Because they are businesses, and here in the U.S. you have to keep the lights on, you have to pay insurance and all those things. And I think in Brazil the situation, at least places I've trained, is more like insurance. What's that? And so that's a whole different business model, that you have a lot of things that you don't have to worry about. Yeah, but obviously there's very high level jiu-jitsu in the U.S. and very high level jiu-jitsu in Brazil as well.
Is it all about being if you're put in a situation where you need to defend yourself, as in I've been to one jiu-jitsu class and it killed me, but basically how to handle knife attack, how to handle a broken bottle attack, how to if you were in a situation that required you to incapacitate the attacking party, you have the skills to do it.
No, I don't. I'll be. I mean, jujitsu is a type of wrestling. It's a sport within certain parameters, and right there is a self-defense element to it. So I'm probably more prepared to handle myself in a situation where I'm being attacked than had I never done jujitsu. But I certainly don't want to go looking for a fight. I think there's a meme, right, of you ask guys and you say like, well, what kind of animal do you think you could beat in a fight, right? You'd bite a chicken. I could probably beat a chicken. What about a pig? And guys are like, I could probably beat a bear, right? I have no illusions. I'm a terrible fighter. But to me, the jujitsu is really about it's problem solving and leverage. And so to me, it's kind of, how do you get just a little bit further around a person, or how do you flip them and take somebody down? To me, the things that I like about jujitsu are that type of kinetic problem solving, kind of like almost like a chess match of arms and legs. That's how I think of it.
I like it. Are you going to involve your kids?
If they want to be involved, Calvin's 4. He's been to a class or two. And when you're 4, a jiu-jitsu class is really just running around in your pajamas. It's similar to a gymnastics class probably. But if it's something that they like, then I hope they do it, and I'll give them an opportunity to do it. But I see childhood is it's an opportunity to expose your kids to a lot of different things, but they have to choose what it is that they really like or enjoy doing.
I like it. Okay, tell us about, you've done a lot of work around advising young folks or folks that have joined the ERP consulting community. Tell us a bit about that. You wrote a series around advice to young ERP consultants, and you've had feedback. Tell us about that.
When I was working in a large organization with lots of other consultants, it occurred to me that the bottleneck within the industry, it really felt like the bottleneck was we always needed more people to do the job. It was always, how do we get more we've won all this work. All these people want to implement the ERP, but we just need more capable people to do the work. And that had me thinking for a long time, where do ERP consultants come from? My own path was a little bit different, and I think the paths of lots of consultants is a little bit different. But I graduated college with a degree in economics. Then I worked in logistics for a couple of years, and that company didn't wind up doing well. And then I started a technology advertising company with a friend of mine in California, and that didn't do too well. And so I had these failures that had shown me lots of different parts of business, and I was trying to figure out what to do, or beyond this tech advertising company that I was working with. And a friend of mine asked me the types of things that I was doing, and I explained all these things I was doing in Excel, and he goes, "Oh, it's kind of like an ERP for your company." And I said, "Oh, what's an ERP?" And he says, "Oh, an ERP is what I do. I'm an ERP implementer." He says, "Maybe you should try and be an ERP implementer. I think you'd be good at this." And he was very right. So Saul Gomez, if you're out there listening to this, thank you for changing my life and sort of moving me from just a job into what I really see as a vocation. And I think part of what makes me good at consulting, at being an ERP consultant, is it's that collection of lots of different types of experiences that gave me this this unique set of both soft skills and hard skills. And so where do the future ERP consultants come? Because not everyone's going to come from this crooked path, right? Obviously, you'd say, we could hire ERP consultants straight out of college, find new kids that are smart, train them up, and then they'll be able to go to the world. Or you have people that are maybe already work with the ERP and then they're switching. And that's almost like the table stakes of how do you get people in the door that are excited about the industry. But then one of the frustrations that I had as an ERP consultant was, well, how do I get better at this thing that I'm doing? I was very fortunate that within my first year, I had just really incredible mentorship. So Joel Lecty, who is now my co-worker, co-member, co-worker owner, whatever you call it, at Co-Optimize, our cooperative. He really just set me up for success by showing me, these are the things you need to do. These are the things you need to avoid, right? This is what listening looks like, right? This is what good questions look like. This is how we move the project forward, right? And he was just so masterful at teaching me a lot of those things. And then as Joel sort of ascended the ranks into more other management and director roles and was no longer able to consult me directly, I always felt like, well, where am I, or how am I getting better at what I'm doing? And I felt like I didn't have a lot of guideposts or a lot of indications of, move in this direction or move in that direction. And it was about that time, right? So I guess in 2020 is when I took your 90-day challenge. And that was great because that showed me, the things that you're thinking, these are good directions to move in, right? Both this is how you improve on soft skills. This is how you improve on hard skills. It was kind of nice that I could sort of building a roadmap there. But anyways, so this is a problem that I've thought about a lot. And then last year, I started doing a lot of independent writing. And one of the independent writing exercises that I did was just about advice to a young ERP consultant. That's what I called it, or trying to think of the things, right? You're brand new. You're now an ERP consultant because you have that title, but you don't know a whole lot. You're not, how do you get to a place where you know things, or what are the things that you should do or should look out for to get better at the art, right, of ERP consulting. So it's a 10-part series. We can link to it here in the show notes. But simple things, right? Like just taking notes, I think is a place where, let's say you're brand new, you're in your first week of ERP consulting. You literally know nothing about what you're supposed to do, but you're being presented as an expert. I think taking notes is valuable because, one, you're providing, you're on this meeting, you're sort of providing value to the group. You can be the one that sends the notes, and then on the customer side, they say, oh, great, he sends the notes. Yeah, he knows what's going on. But then, two, you get to review your own notes, and you say, oh, I don't understand this point. What was that, right? And all the, it's Donald Rumsfeld, right? The unknown unknowns. You get to say, oh, this is the thing that I didn't know, and now I know that I didn't know that, and so I can figure out, chase down that. So I had, it's 10 things, but it's sort of about how do you build that initial knowledge, and how do you make a space for yourself, both kind of as a consultant, and then how do you sort of get known within the organization and things like that.
I like it. The practical nature of it, right? Something like taking notes that shows that you're actively listening. And then I love the fact that if you're the one that sends it out, you've now created these connections with all these people that is building trust in your ability to execute right from the get-go. And it's something so subtle.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good. Tell me about other kind of soft skills that new consultants need to have, and also where does industry verticalization come into play? Like if you look at the, if you look at ERP covers a massive spectrum, right, of industries, and no one ERP is the same as another. Then you're seeing these days organizations wanting to move away from their really tailored processes to what are standard ways of doing these, rather than the hodgepodge that might have developed over time as the business evolved. I'm seeing this move to go to in the ERP side to go, actually, let's standardize on what does best practice look, rather than just the way we do it. If the way we're doing it is not really adding material advantage to the business, how do you, so where does industry come in? Where does focus from the tech stack? There's so many parts now in ERP. There's so many focus areas. How does a new consultant really develop their tech skills, but also their industry skills, and also their, for want a better term, soft skills, their skills of human interaction, of building trust, of constantly learning, of confidence in their position on a project?
Ooh, fantastic series of questions, right? To take soft skills, I think in some ways it's hard to develop soft skills, because some of soft skills is just who you are. Developing soft skills is polishing those edges. But right, I'm an active, attentive listener in my marriage, and that translates. I am also an active, attentive listener, right, professionally. And I think it'd be hard for me to have, fantastic soft skills professionally and then terrible soft skills in my personal life. So I think that's probably just a part of us all growing and evolving as human beings, right? Is just getting better soft skills. One thing that's interesting within that is a thing I always struggled with is getting feedback on your soft skills. And I don't know if you have any suggestions there, but that's a thing, because I might have a meeting and think I did a great meeting, and I sent out my notes, and everybody's happy, and I feel like we all did a great thing, and maybe I even moved the project along a great deal. But if the customer's on the other side and they didn't walk away with that same impression, right? Something's breaking down there. But it's hard to get that feedback from the other side, and I don't have a solution for that. I'm just raising that. Have you had thoughts on that, Mark? About even how do you really know that you're succeeding at your soft skills, right?
Yeah, if you've got a wing person right in the room that is a trusted, maybe more seasoned, you've got that ability to go back, and also then open-ended questions. Is there anything I missed, in those notes or that follow-up? Is there anything I missed? Do you think we're aligned? Answering those questions that are not, that really elicit them coming back and feeling that they are contributing again, and perhaps highlighting blind spots. But yeah,
meta soft skills, right? The soft skills for the soft skills. Right. So it's a great question, right? And right, there's a whole industry of self-help books around that. But it's something that I'm interested in general. Now, the verticalization, right, and the how do we, right? And not every partner, but lots of partners are trying to say, right, I just do, this type of thing, and some partners are having a lot of success with that, right? And I come from, right, the first company that I worked with, they said we basically just do professional services. And then even within professional services, they started to drill down and say, we just do, this segment of professional services. And they've had a lot of success doing that. And so I think everyone's doing it probably for two reasons, right? One is you say, if we can just do the same type of implementation over and over, we're going to get better at that, just like you would, working on the assembly line. And also, of course, as you drill down and you say, this is our niche, other partners are going to say, oh, okay, well, I guess that's your niche. I don't want to compete with you in that niche. I'm going to build this as my niche. So it's a good business strategy. And then as a consultant, right, you're coming into this, and if you start working for any of these implementation partners, part of your job is just to become an expert in the industry in general, and then understand the specific problems that customers in your industry have, right, with ERP or with reporting or with their financial closes, right? Everyone had, what did Tolstoy say, right? Happy families are all the same, and and unhappy families are all unhappy in their own ways. But right, you'll have trends within each niche. So I think as a general point, it probably helps to become an industry expert, maybe even before you are a specific ERP expert. But maybe it's a chicken and egg problem. I don't know. As a consultant, though, I think it's really important for you not to just have expertise, let's say, within your industry, but really you need granular expertise, and within some specific facet of your ERP. If I take finance and operations as an example, maybe you get really good at just like the Excel connector or data migration or the collections suite, right? These are things that are much more specific than saying, oh, I do all of AR. The ins and outs and the things that can break of this, this very specific feature. And I see that as incredible value add, because not just because, right, you build expertise in that thing, which is helpful to your customers, but you can become known inside your organization as I am the expert on financial reporting or whatever that thing might be. It can be very valuable to sort of become a beacon of light around some given topic, and as other people say, oh, I have a problem with that, and they might say, oh, Josh knows about that, Mark knows about that. That can become very helpful. And so so it's not just about industry specific knowledge, but it's about knowledge within your specific product. I was really surprised and honored to be selected as an MVP this year. But in a lot of ways, I really do still feel like a fraud, because I'm a finance and operations functional consultant, but I've never done trade and logistics stuff. I've only done a limited amount of let's say manufacturing stuff. All of my stuff has been within finance, and all of my finance stuff is really focused on AR and AP and data migration efforts. And there are sort of just distinct places where I have a lot of deep knowledge. And there's so much, right? It's too big for any one person to be the expert in everything.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.